Let me tell you something. If you told me a month ago that I'd be waging war over a marina before sunrise, I'd have laughed in your face and poured another cup of coffee. But there I was, still clutching the locket my aunt gave me, staring down a woman in a neon pink suit who looked like she'd chewed up a few rookie landowners for breakfast. Listen, sweetie, your little inheritance fantasy ends today. This marina belongs to all of us now. That's Cordelia Blackthorne for you. HOA president, self-anointed queen, and the sort of person who pronounces community like it's both a threat and a promise. The crowd she'd whipped up had turned my family's quiet marina into their own county fair. Food trucks, music, cameras everywhere. Hell, I half expected a dunk tank and a guy hawking t-shirts. It was 6:45 on a Saturday morning, and instead of solitude, I got 200 strangers on my dock and a professional event crew setting up umbrellas on planks my aunt had spent 3 decades preserving. The water had barely gone quiet since she'd passed, and now, here they were. I could almost hear her voice, clear as day. Guard the water, Sterling. They'll come for it. Turns out, she wasn't just being dramatic. Named Sterling Knox, 38, ex-Navy hydraulic specialist, now a water rights engineer, and, as of yesterday, the new owner of Clearwater Marina. I'd barely made it up from Jacksonville, still got the lawyer's fingerprints on the inheritance papers, and already walked straight into an ambush dressed as a block party. Before I dive deeper into this legal circus, let me ask you, where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments, because trust me, this kind of story could play out anywhere. The security tapes later showed the first trucks rolling in at 5 a.m., caterers, techs, volunteers in matching Community Reclamation Day shirts. They cut my padlocks, took down the private property signs, and by dawn, Cordelia was hailing this as the grand reopening of the neighborhood's rightful lakefront. I pulled out my phone and started recording. I'd learned in the Navy, documentation can be the difference between justice and getting steamrolled. Faces, words, timestamps, capture it all. Good morning, folks. My voice boomed across the water. Old habits die hard. Cordelia's smile sharpened as she called out, "Everyone, meet our new neighbor, who apparently thinks he can deny an entire community their traditional gathering place." The way she said it, you'd think I'd outlawed Christmas. Phones were out, cameras rolling, waiting for me to trip. I kept my voice steady. This is private property. I need everyone to leave immediately. Cordelia laughed, a sound like champagne glasses breaking on marble. Oh, honey, there's been a misunderstanding. This marina has been community property for years. Your Aunt Marielle was always so generous. She lied so smooth. Half the crowd was nodding before she finished. But I'd grown up hearing Aunt Marielle cuss HOAs under her breath and guard her deed like it was the Declaration of Independence. "I have the deed right here," I said, holding up documents hot off the printer. "Knox Family Trust. Never community property. Never will be." For a second, Cordelia's face twitched, mask slipping. Then she snapped back. "Documents can be interpreted many ways, sweetie, but 20 years of community use creates rights. Maybe check adverse possession laws before you go making hasty decisions." That's when I saw him. Silver hair, $2,000 suit, standing behind her, arms crossed, not smiling. The sort of man who's used to getting what he wants without ever raising his voice. He stepped forward, Maximilian Rothwell III. "I represent some development interests. Maybe we can resolve this privately." Before I could answer, Cordelia cut him off. "Not now, Max. This is about community spirit, not negotiations." Max slunk back, but not like a man outgunned, more like a man playing the long game. I knew I needed backup. "I'm calling the sheriff," I said loud enough for the crowd to hear. Some people shuffled, checking their phones. But Cordelia and her core group of T-shirt zealots, they didn't budge. "Go ahead," she smirked. "Sheriff Hendricks is a personal friend." That's when I noticed my Uncle Bishop, my aunt's brother, hovering near the edge of the crowd, looking about as comfortable as a cat at bath time. We hadn't spoken in years, not since he chewed me out for staying Navy instead of coming home. Now he was here on the wrong side. The dispatcher wasn't much help. "Is anyone in immediate danger?" "No, just a full-scale land invasion. We'll send an officer when available." usually 60 to 90 minutes. Cordelia heard it all. Plenty of time to enjoy the morning, folks, she called out, milking every second. I retreated to my truck and started researching water rights, HOA law, adverse possession. That's when I found it. In Florida, 7 years of continuous open use, and they can make a legal claim. My aunt fought tooth and nail to keep this place independent, but if Cordelia could prove community use since 2017, I might be in trouble. Unless federal waterway law trumped it all. Clearwater Lake connects to the Hillsborough River, which makes it federally regulated. Aunt Marielle's marina permits were still in her name, federally bulletproof, and the Army Corps of Engineers had to approve any transfer. That changed everything. I called Captain Rebecca Voss, old CO, now with the Corps of Engineers. Sterling, if you're right, this isn't a local issue. Unauthorized seizure of federal waterway access? That's serious. Send me everything you've got, and keep recording. For the first time since I'd inherited, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I had a shot. The sheriff finally showed up 93 minutes later. Deputy Martinez was polite, tired, and clearly didn't want to referee a brawl between property lawyers. Cordelia glided up with a folder of official papers, bylaws, community agreements, all stamped and signed. Mr. Knox is confused. This marina has been a community amenity since 2017. I looked. The signatures were good. Too good. But I knew for a fact my aunt would never sign over anything to an HOA. Those are fakes, I said, staring her down. My aunt never agreed to community usage. Cordelia turned to the deputy, all sympathy. Perhaps Mr. Knox needs time to review the paperwork with his lawyer. The deputy nodded, relieved not to arrest anyone. Sir, I suggest you get legal counsel. This is a civil matter. Cordelia smiled. She'd won round one. But I wasn't done. I called Captain Voss. Rebecca, they forged HOA documents. How fast can federal law step in? If you can prove it, Sterling, we'll have investigators on site tomorrow. I spent the rest of the day documenting everything. Event setups, fake paperwork, money trails. I caught Rothwell on the phone, discussing marina acquisition and Phase 2 development. This wasn't just about a lake party. This was a hostile takeover, using the HOA as camouflage. I called my lawyer, Harrison Wells. He listened to the story, whistled low, and said, "Bring everything. If they're using forged documents, that's fraud. If there's a conspiracy, we might be looking at federal RICO charges." His office was all brass plaques and river views. He'd fought and won cases like this for decades. They made a lot of mistakes, he said, reading through my evidence. The forged signatures don't match your aunt's actual handwriting. Federal permits forbid transfer without approval. And you can't claim adverse possession if you're also arguing your aunt agreed to share. One cancels out the other. He pulled up a map. Rothwell's companies, via a maze of shell corporations, had already scooped up almost 40% of the lakefront. My marina was the last independent property with real access to federal waters. If they get your marina, they control the lake. This isn't just your inheritance. It's a $50 million land grab. We planned our counterattack. Emergency injunction, federal investigation, media attention. Back at the lake, dust settling, the community crowd had shrunk, but the Corps, Cordelia, and her pro-event team were prepping for an overnight siege. That night, I found Uncle Bishop drinking alone by the water, shame written all over him. Sterling, I screwed up. Cordelia's got evidence of my gambling debts. $240,000. She said she'd make them disappear if I helped. I told him the truth. Federal agents are coming. If you cooperate now, there's a chance for immunity. But you have to spill everything. He did. It turned out Rothwell and Cordelia had run this play before, targeting elderly owners, harassing with HOA fines, forcing fire sales, laundering properties through fake shell companies. My aunt's death was just the latest opportunity. If you're still here, you know what's coming. Leave a blue water drop emoji if you're ready to watch these crooks go down. Next morning, the feds arrived. 3 black SUVs, badges flashing. FBI, EPA, Army Corps of Engineers. My uncle handed over years' worth of records, bank statements, meeting notes, recordings. We showed them video proof, fake documents, everything. The agents set a trap. I'd approach Cordelia like I was ready to bargain, while my uncle wore a wire. Cordelia strutted down to the dock, ready to make her final play. "Sterling, glad you're being reasonable. Let's settle this the neighborly way." She introduced me to their legal counsel and development consultant, guys with briefcases full of contracts and blueprints for a private resort, yacht slips, members-only beaches. They offered me 50 grand for permanent community access. Insulting, given the value. But it was enough to get them talking. The consultant showed off plans for a luxury hotel, bragged about 4 years of acquisitions, explained how they'd driven families out with fines and code violations. My uncle nudged him on, asking just the right questions. "So you targeted families facing tough times?" The guy shrugged. "Not targeted, just took advantage of opportunity. HOA violations, overdue taxes, people buckle under pressure. That was the smoking gun. The feds moved in, badges, handcuffs, the works. Cordelia, Rothwell, their entire team, rounded up for conspiracy, fraud, environmental crimes. My uncle got full immunity for testifying. As the last suspect was led away, Cordelia hissed, "You have no idea who you're fighting." I smiled. "Actually, Cordelia, I do. And you lost." "The Marina?" "It stayed in my name, federally protected, immune to future HOA or corporate grabs. Captain Voss petitioned to have it listed as a permanent federal monument, and the local news ran headlines about the biggest property fraud takedown in county history. I taught my nephew Jake to tie knots on the same dock where my aunt taught me. Uncle Bishop did his community service there, cleaning up both his life and the waterfront. When Jake asked why anyone thought they could take our marina, I told him the truth. Sometimes people get so greedy they think the rules don't apply. But when good people fight back with evidence, the system works. Rothwell got 25 years. Cordelia got 15, and the courts clawed back millions for families who'd lost their homes. My aunt's marina stayed open, a bronze plaque by the dock reading, "Protected by federal law in memory of Marielle Knox. Some things are worth fighting for." Every so often, tourists ask about it. I tell them the truth. Courage, evidence, and the law beat out corruption and greed every time. And if you've ever dealt with a nightmare HOA or a crooked board, drop your story below, because maybe, just maybe, your fight is worth it too. If this story made you want to stand up for what's right, hit that like button, share your experience, or drop a comment about justice. Because it's not just about winning, it's about guarding what matters for the next person who refuses to back down.